Audio on.
Good evening. I'm Brian Harris, the lead information officer for the Great Basin Incident Management Team that is managing the Williams Fork Fire. Welcome to our Facebook Live meeting that we do daily at 5 o'clock. What we do is we bring our folks together, give you an operational briefing of what's going on in the fire, and then we spend about 20 minutes or so answering questions that you might have. So if you do have questions, type those into the comment box. Before I get started, I want to give you a brief orientation of the fire, of the map that I've got before me. So way up here to the north is Granby. As we come down this way, it's the Tabernash area, Fraser and Winter Park. And then down here in this area is Interstate 70, which we have got word that the Glenwood Canyon has opened up. That was impacted by the Grizzly Creek fire, but it is open up at this point, so that's good news. As we come around this side of the fire here, here's the Williams Fork River. As we come up here, we'll talk. This is the mill and the portal for the Henderson mine. The Henderson mine itself is located over here. We come up through this way, there's a couple creeks in here that a lot of people know about. This is Darling Creek here, Kitty Creek here, and Kaiser Creek is up in this direction. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Johnson, one of our operations chiefs.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Johnston, Deputy Ops Chief here with the team. So I'm going to start off with an update on the fire, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about our overall strategy again, like I did yesterday. So today on the fire, we continue to patrol some of these areas that we contained. And here, where I was talking about a firing operation yesterday, we went ahead and got started with that about midday. We burned for a few hours, and then some thunderstorms came in, so we stopped the burns just so we didn't have to mess with any gusty winds. But everything that we've done out there so far today is going well. But we're going to have a little bit more work to burn this area out in between some fire's edge and our control line here that we have in place. So another day maybe working on that in there, but everything's going really well with that. Working out here to the east of the fire, we continue to do some prep around some some structure protection around the Denver improvement in case the fire was Denver water improvements out there. So in case the fire gets out to that area. Coming back around to the northeast side of the fire, we've been talking about the Forest Experimental Station out there, and we more or less finished the prep out there. And tomorrow we're going to start building some of these containment lines, fire control lines that we have out here ahead of the fire. We are getting some more equipment in to help with that operation. We were able to get some. It's definitely a limited resource, but we're doing well as far as getting some of those more additional resources in to help us with this out here. So let me talk a little bit about that overall strategy. Two strategies that we employ on fires like this are containment and confinement. Containment is where we go directly up against the fire to control the edge of the fire's progress. So it stops the fire when we put containment line in. Confinement is a strategy that we use where we can use natural barriers that'll confine the fire. We can also put in some indirect containment lines that would also help us contain the fire. But those indirect lines out there are going to require firefighters, if the fire ever got there, to hold those lines. And that's all part of our overall planning effort. So on this fire, the west side, we're using that containment strategy. Here on the southeast side of the fire, we're using a confinement strategy. And we have big mountains out here that'll stop the fire's progression. Here on the east side of the fire, we also have mountains that are going to stop this eastward progression. It's already kind of burning itself out in a lot of this country. Up here on the northern flank, if it was to come out somehow, we got this indirect containment line that we'll use if the fire comes out there, and we'll have firefighting resources out there to hold that line if it ever got there. But right now, our projections are showing this fire continuing to burn this way up Williams Fork, and this area is really not burning to the north. We continue to see west-northwest winds that'll just keep driving it into these mountains and help confine the fire in those areas. One additional question I'd like to hit before I step off, it came in yesterday after our meeting, and it was regarding the catcher's mitt that I was talking about yesterday. And that catcher's mitt is that indirect line that we're putting in. also our confinement area. And the question was regarding Moose Run subdivision, which I believe is out in this area. And they were concerned that they're in the palm of that catcher's mitt, and if that's a concern, should they be concerned? And I'd say there's no more concern here than anywhere along our line, because we don't know if the fire's where it would come out if it ever comes out. So, you know, this containment line, we feel really good about being able to hold the fire there, and that would keep it from going into the Moose Run subdivision. So with that, I'll step off and help you with questions.
All right, thanks, Mike, for that operational update. I'd like to take a minute now and introduce Shelley Olson, who's one of our local public information officers. Shelley.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. Shelley Olson, Public Information Officer. I've been assisting the Great Basin team in the Incident Command Post, as well as assisting the sheriff with public information regarding Grant County. And I just wanted to let you know that the sheriff sends his apologies. He wished he could be here tonight. He had to go on another call. It was not a wildfire, so rest assured it was not that kind of a call. So he wishes he could be here to answer questions, but if you have questions about the evacuations, we will answer those through the chat, or we'll make sure we get it back to you through the sheriff. So I'm up here today to represent the Grant County Wildfire Council. And the Wildfire Council has been a nonprofit since 2015. We have local, state, and federal partners all working together to reduce hazardous fuels in Grant County, and also just to send preparedness, prevention, mitigation, and survival tips and information to our citizens. And the way we do that is two ways. One is, I should say, more than two ways. We have lots of ways we do that. One of them is our website, bewildfireready.org. So you can go there and find information about what we do, what our mission is. We have free chipping days in the county. We have a cost share reimbursement program. If you do mitigation on your property, we can help you pay for that. And then one thing we talked about yesterday with the sheriff was the Ready, Set, Go Wildland Fire Action Guide. You can download this from bewildfireready.org, or you can stop by your local fire department. We have copies of them at our offices. This guide gives you everything you need to know to prepare for wildfire. And that's the Ready, Set, Go we talk about. Ready, making sure your family and your homes are ready. Set, if there's a wildfire in your area, you are situationally aware and you are preparing in case you have to evacuate. And then obviously the go means it's time to go. Never ever wait for officials to tell you if you don't feel safe. It's your prerogative to be able to evacuate when you want to. So just keep that in mind. So again, bewildfireready.org is our website, and I'll be here to answer questions. One last thing is reflective address signs. These are really critical in an emergency, not only a wildfire with heavy smoke or the darkness, but also medical emergencies, so that our ambulances and our law enforcement officers can find you. So again, bewildfireready.org, address signs, and your Ready, Set, Go action guide. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll be here for questions. Thanks.
Thank you, Shelley. We do have a couple questions here, so I'll take one of those right now. Again, the fire right now is 11,048 acres. We are at 5% containment, and that containment is on the west side of the fire at this location right here. Where we expect that containment to continue to go down is, as Mike talked about, doing that burnout operation in here. We're hoping to contain this area. It'll take us a few days because we need to, after we put fire on the ground, we need to spend some time to actually clean things up and make sure that fire is going to hold right there. So that's the area that we're looking at the containment, and again, 5% right here. There's a question up here referring to County Road 50, and it really relates back to the closure that the Forest Service has put in place. The way those closures work is they do stay in place a long time. Right now, that order has a termination date of October 31st. However, as federal land managers, none of us really like to close public land. So the forest will continually go back and evaluate that closure, and if and when they can, they'll continue to shrink that closure down so that the public lands can be opened up. But specific to the County Road 50, where that's located at, it is a primary area that a lot of our firefighters are working right now. So we don't expect that road to be open soon, but again, the Forest Service will continually evaluate their closure and shrink it when they can. I'll step off for a minute and see if we can find grab a couple more questions.
All right, so a question about burnout operations. What are burnout operations? How are they done and used? So, you know, these firing operations, burnouts, they're done where we can use a containment line of some sort. It could be a road, it could be a river, it could be a hand line or a dozer line that we put in between the fire up on the hill and the line that we put in. And then we use, you know, helicopters. They can drop fire on the ground and or people on the ground with carrying drip torches, which is basically a little firing device that can light fuels on fire. So that's what we were doing out there today, was burning those fuels out between our containment line and the main fire's edge up on the hillside. And that's just a efficient way for us to contain the fire and effectively more safely, because that hillside's pretty rugged, a lot of snags, and it's hard to get firefighters up there on that hillside to go direct on it. Might go ahead and address that next one as best I can. What is the boundary of the northern indirect containment line that we're talking? You know, it's mainly basically along the Crooked Creek Road. There's some places here where it's not gonna follow the Crooked Creek or 50 directly, but that's where we're looking to put in this northern line. Pretty close to Young Life Place here. We're actually working with them across some private land, but all the structures, all the values, we're making sure they're on the safe side, and we're putting a line in where we have the least, you know, or the highest probability of success. So the least amount of fuels to deal with as far as a lot of thick timber and stuff like that are challenging. So it's more out in the grass, sagebrush, aspen stands where we can have a better, higher probability of success.
I received a question that says, please comment on the gravity of the smoke. So of course, you know, where there's fire, there's smoke. You know, couple that with really the jet stream that's bringing a lot of smoke to this location from Northern California. So an awful lot of the smoke that we see throughout the Fraser Valley is actually smoke that has been brought in from fires in other states. However, we do know that that smoke can be a serious thing for a lot of people. We do, on a daily basis, we have brought in some people that are called air resource advisors, and they actually have placed monitors here in the Fraser Valley area, and they use those monitors to collect data and actually put a report out on a daily basis about the smoke and the air quality out there. Those reports can be found on our INSA web page, but we also post them daily in the morning on this Facebook page as well too.
So there's a question about whether we intend to put confinement or containment lines in Bottle Pass, which is this pass here. And I've talked about it in previous days about how there's continuous timber through this pass. And I might have answered this question partially the other day, where basically what, you know, as far as putting dozer line, hand line up there, it's pretty remote. We can't get equipment up there, putting firefighters up there. As thick as that timber is, we just couldn't put in a wide enough line that would be effective. So what we've talked about is maybe if the fire makes it around to this area where it's in the head of Kaiser Creek, where it would be ready to make a run in there, use retardant or aircraft, and we'll be doing that along this northern flank so it doesn't get lined up to make a run in here. We've been dropping buckets out there occasionally just to keep it in check and slow that northerly progression, but it's really not burning to the north very fast at all. Very, very slowly, and all of our models and everything's showing us that it's not going to get there anytime soon.
Thanks again, Mike. We do have a question. Well, it's actually not a question here, but it's a question we received earlier today. And it's about the Colorado National Guard and what they have provided for the firefighting efforts. So here on the Williams Fork Fire, we are supporting 2 Black Hawk helicopters and a Chinook helicopter. They are located physically is where their base is at the Granby Airport. Now they don't just belong to us. Any fire in the area can actually utilize those depending on priorities and availability of those ships as well too. In addition to that, in other parts of the state, there are some National Guard troops that have been deployed to help for traffic controlling on one of the other fires as well. So that's the presence that the National Guard has brought to the fire situation throughout the state. And we do, of course, thank them for doing that. We do have a question of who will be addressing the post-fire danger like mud, slides, erosion, damage to county roads, and etc. And again, this is a fire that's under the jurisdiction of the Forest Service. They do have the responsibility to work with the post-fire effects. Now, we do have what we call a BEAR team that comes in, and BEAR stands for Burned Area Emergency Response. And what they do is they really survey the burned area itself and determine what effects the fire has had on the ground. One of the primary aspects that they look for is a potential erosion that could happen, well, probably not during this time frame of the year, but into the springtime. A lot of that depends on how the severity of the burn that has taken place out here. One of the products that they produce is a severity burn map. And of course, we'll be focusing on the areas of the fire that have that high severity burn. The potential for some of the erosion effects is that, some of these small creeks in here can have a debris flow, and that could potentially move into one of the larger creeks and result in a larger debris flow. So actions can be taken to hold the water on the hillside. Like I said, the BEAR team is just getting engaged now. It'll probably be at least a week or so before their report and their severity map is produced. But once it is, they'll have some time frame here before the snow flies to put some measures in place to help protect those assets.
Question number 9 is here I'm looking at, are smoke jumpers utilized on this fire? I lost the question there, but are they utilized on this fire? Anyways, I think I know the rest of the question. So smoke jumpers primarily are used on initial attack fires. By initial attack fire, I mean when a fire starts, and quite often in more remote, rugged country, that's where we use smoke jumpers because they can get there quicker than fire engines and some of the ground crews. So Colorado does use smoke jumpers. I know they base them sometimes out of Grand Junction. I don't know if there's any in Colorado, honestly, right now. I'm guessing there is. Occasionally, they'll help out on large fires as well and fill overhead rolls out on the fire for us. But initial attack is their primary responsibility. So next question, how do containment lines work with crowning fire? Good question. So crowning fires when it's burning from tree to tree, basically in clumps and running through the tops of trees. So, and when that's happening, it's throwing embers out in front of it. And that is certainly a concern. But when we put in these containment lines, we thin the trees out on the fire side of these containment lines. So you thin them out so when the fire hits it, it hits the ground. And we identify areas to the extent possible where we don't have to deal with those trees. That's why, like I said earlier, we're out in the aspen grass where we can be, use creeks, riparian areas so we don't have to deal with that crowning potential. I see another question there for me. So I mentioned the thunderstorms earlier, and if there was any precip, there was a few drops, but nothing that's really measurable. But good news is over the next few days, we're expected to get maybe up to a 1/4 inch of rain over the next 3 days or so. So favorable weather ahead of us. I don't expect much fire growth over the next few days.
You know, as I mentioned yesterday, and I'll mention again today, The fire triangle, there are three parts of that, of course. One of them being terrain, one of them being fuels, and the other one being weather. So weather is very much a key factor that plays into how fire is going to behave on the ground. Each incident that we have actually brings a incident meteorologist with us as well. So that meteorologist is actually here in camp with us, and they produce a spot weather report every single day. And of course, our operations folks use that information as it is a critical part of that fire triangle to plan for the day and make their operations for the day. There is a product that I can look over here. I know you can't see it on the wall, but our meteorologist for the spot weather forecast here is tomorrow saying that we have a 70% chance of rain, and on Wednesday a 90% chance of rain. So that plays very well into what Mike was saying, that we don't expect a lot of fire activity on this fire over the next few days. However, the thing that we have to remember, though, is that there are a lot of heavy down fuels throughout the fire area, and they'll continue to smolder out there. And when they do that, they still put up a lot of smoke. Once the weather dries out, or even if we do get a wetting rain, that wetting rain might only last a few days for us because those dead heavy fuels out there have been out there for a long time. It may only take 2-3 days for them to dry back out, and the fire activity could pick up again as well.
So there's two questions here I might address. There's one about the southwest wind, and the winds do switch a little bit around the thunderstorms. They might have been getting a little bit of southwest wind, but when we have cloud cover, as we're expected over the next few days, even if we get some southwest wind, cloud cover means higher relative humidity, which means less fire growth, and just really not expecting any fire growth. Even if we do have some southwest winds on it, it's only going to be slowly moving over the next several days. And if we get precip, it might take a week or two for it to dry out enough for it to even start growing again. So let's cross our fingers for that precip and hope it comes in like they said. The other question was about fire slowly moving into Horseshoe Lake area and up Darling Creek. Darling Creek's here, Horseshoe Lake's up here in this area. Well, there's old fire from 2018, and that basically stopped the fire completely because that's one benefit of these fire scars is that it stops subsequent fires from moving. So that's there. It's not moving in this area. It is moving up Williams Fork, east, up towards St. Louis Peak. And then Horseshoe Lake, this area, the fire just really hasn't moved much. And I think it's as it gets higher in elevation in there, it's getting moisture. And it's just not burning actively at all. This is where we still have some heat, but it's just slowly moving. So
I'll jump back in on the next question. The question is, can the public have access to pictures from official recon flights? Well, we do some recon flights, official recon flights. We do have our operations folks that are up in the air on a daily basis via helicopters. And they're really looking, to see what that fire is doing to help plan the operations for that day. Now, we do have on this fire, we do have a photographer from the National Interagency Fire Center. And the job of that photographer is to go out and take pictures. The pictures that person is taking, we're sharing those on our Facebook Live page, but also on our InstaWeb page too. Now these are public domain pictures. So if there are specific pictures that you'd like to see, contact the local Forest Service office and they can perhaps help you out to gain access to the pictures that you're interested in. The next question up here is fire retardant water contaminant. Is there concern about groundwater contamination for homes using well water? It's kind of a challenging one to ask. Mike, any thoughts on that one?
I can maybe help.
We might have to tag team this one a little bit.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on that stuff, but what I do know is that you don't want to drop retardant directly into, rivers. It can have some effect, but they've changed the chemicals if there is any in it, but there's some phosphate in it. So we do keep it out of riparian areas, but if it's dropped on the ground, it's not going to get into well water systems. They use retardant near structures, and there's never been a issue as far as retardant causing damage to well water. So hopefully that gives you some peace of mind. And I know there's some information online about that where you can probably get some more information.
Mike, and I would just add that the retardant that is out there, like Mike said, it's used in very specific and strategic places. It does dissipate fairly quickly. And we also have, every fire that we go to, the forest or whatever jurisdiction that exists has sensitive areas. So really it's a no retardant zone for us. In a potential stream that is carrying a sensitive fish species, retardant is not used in that area. So it helps us guide that.
Hi again, Shelley Olson. One of the questions that just came in is, where can we see a clear map? We understand it's very difficult to see the maps on the walls behind us. So the best place to go is to ncweb.gov. That is the federal site for all wildland fires that are active, and you can go look at them. You can look them up, see the acreage, look at maps. So there'll be a JPEG map, which again is hard to see because it's one size. If you click down below at the bottom, there'll be a PDF link, and you can zoom in on that PDF link. So look for the PDF on the NC website. And then while I'm up here, I just want to add a couple things. I just want you all to know there was a question about evacuations, about smoke. I don't have a good answer for you there. However, you know that when COVID hit, your county responders got together and we formed a small type 3 incident management team. We call ourselves the Headwaters IMT. And we have been working together since March 14th. And as soon as the Williams Fork fire last Friday became an incident for us, we reassembled again and we came up with an incident action plan. And we had today an evacuation tabletop exercise. We walked through what it would look like to evacuate the Fraser Valley. So I just want everyone to be rest assured that your local first responders, your fire departments, law, EMS, all of us are working together, and we are working together with the team that is here. The team, and thank you Great Basin team for being here. They are handling the fire for us, and we can focus on getting everyone out if we have to, safely. So again, gcemergency.com is where you get the evacuation and preparedness information. So thank you very much. And then I have a quick question for y'all out there. Who put this on my doorstep at Granby Fire? Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means a lot, and if anybody knows who it is, let me know.
We have just a few minutes left. If we got another question that comes in, looking up here and I don't see any at this point in time. Just give it a minute here and we'll answer one more question before we close out. Okay, well, having seen nothing come in, we'll go ahead and close out the meeting for today. We'll be back here again tomorrow night at 5 o'clock on the Williams Fork Fire Information Facebook page. Join us. In the meantime, if you have questions about or any questions about the fire, go ahead and call us on our fire information lines. And if your question wasn't answered here tonight, we do have fire information officers that will continue to answer the questions here on this Facebook post throughout the evening time. So thank you for joining us tonight.